deny God and throw off the yoke of the Torah. That being said, for the most part in our generations, it's not the fault of the people who do this because they see that a lot of people have a good time doing whatever the heck they want. Furthermore, God hasn't sent us any prophets or miracles, open miracles, in a long time. Although 67 war, the 73 war, the continuous existence of Israel in all of its full glory is itself a miracle. From that love of Israel, we should then extend that love to all of mankind to create a better world. But that requires greater explanation as to how we're supposed to do this in context of being a religious person who believes in the Torah that was given specifically for the Jewish people. That being said, I want to address what Benny Morris wrote in Newsweek magazine. I will not call it anything else because one has to be careful how one says things. In this August publication, Benny Morris says that Israel is coming apart, that this may be the end of Israel. What is going to be the end of Israel? Well, he identifies two things and hints at a third. Number one, the disparity between the classes. There are wealthy people and there are average people, and the average people cannot afford certain levels of housing. Second thing he touches is the fact that there exists a large body of Orthodox people who get what they call taktsivim. They get government funding. And the third thing that he addresses is the relationship with the Arabs in the so-called occupied lands of Judea and Samaria, and formerly the Gaza Strip. Benny Morris is a liberal, but not just a regular liberal, a radical liberal who believes that Israel should have been and should still be a socialist state, creating comfort for all of its people in a certain secular venue. The fact that there are Orthodox and that the Orthodox have political power bothers him greatly. Not only does it bother him, it actually threatens him. At one time, they looked, cutesy at these people. Well, these people, they have their 10 kids, they suffer their privations, but, we can take care of them, we can give them a check. Now, these people suddenly have boomed to becoming a significant portion of the population. However, Benny Morris is a bigot, and Newsweek magazine has written lines that are lies and bigoted. The Orthodox community is not entirely on the public dole. There are a few people, maybe a few thousand families, who are in the public dole and receive large compensation for their families. Not out of line as to what we do here in this country for people who have children. So you might ask, well, why don't they go to work? That's their ideology. Their ideology is that the husband learns Torah in the yeshiva, in the kollel, and the wife goes to work. And they try to make do as best as they can, but they need a little bit of help by the government, and the government gives them that help, and that allows them to continue to exist in a very, very meager way. They can't afford luxuries. They can't afford to buy an automobile and go on vacation to Cyprus, Turkey, or go to Burma to get their minds blown out like a lot of Israelis do when they leave the army. But they live an austere life, and they're very happy about it, and they live in Israel. But they, my friends, are the vast minority of the Orthodox community. The Orthodox community today compose approximately 30% of the offices in the IDF, and I believe that the figures are that approximately 40% of the new inductees are from Orthodox homes. If you take the Orthodox and the traditional, they are either half or the majority of the inductees in the IDF. And this poses a problem to the left-wingers. The reason for that is precisely this relationship between us and the Arab population. The Arab population is a fifth column, not just in pre-67 borders, but certainly in Judea and Samaria. They wish the destruction of the land of Israel, and they wish to take over and expel the Jews into the sea. They've never changed their lines. The difference between them is do they say it openly or do they say it quietly behind closed doors? Abbas, for all of the rhetoric that people say, oh, he's given out a lot of different things, Abbas has never accepted the reality of Israel, wants another 5 million Arabs to come and populate what is pre-67 Israel, so that they will overwhelm the population economically and then physically, and then vote the Jews out. This is their desire. The only thing that's keeping the policy of giving in to a right of return to the Arabs is the population called the Orthodox and the ultra-Orthodox, as well as the right-wing groups who believe, rightly or wrongly, that Israel was given to the Jewish people by God in the Bible, the same Bible that the Christians hold dear, and that the Quran itself verifies that the land was given to the people of Israel. And anybody who claims that Israel should accommodate the Arabs more doesn't know what he's talking about. The Arabs have territories that are millions of square miles. There's no reason for any Arab to live in Israel. Those who choose to live in Israel have to abide by the rules. What are the rules? You pay your taxes, and you don't kill anybody, and you don't plot to kill anybody. Well, these people are plotting to kill people. What do you think the reaction should be? We should leave, or they should leave? At any rate, the ultra-Orthodox are not all out of work, contrary to what Mr. Morris says. Most of them are very productive. And they're not the majority of the Orthodox either. The majority of the Orthodox are like my nieces and nephews who work for a living and do everything they can exactly as Mr. Morris said. They go to the army and they then have a business. My uncle, who's a Chabad Chassid, both of my uncles, never, ever took money from the public. They worked, and they struggled for a living. One of them became a wealthy man. The other one was living comfortably because he worked all of his life from 5 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. 6 days a week, Shabbos, he was resting. This is a lie, and something that Mr. Morris should apologize for, because he has denigrated every religious Jew as being a taker. Actually, the religious Jews are givers. And in fact, Mr. Morris identifies that there is a brain drain. Do you know what the brain drain is? 10,000 Israelis a year go to Europe and go to America to make a lot of money. Are they the religious right, the religious knitted yarmulke group? Absolutely not. Those are the ones that are coming into Israel and populating Israel. The ones leaving are the left-wingers. And they're not leaving for ideological reasons. They're leaving for greed. They want a better life. God bless them. They're allowed to. But don't yell at it. Don't say it's a function of the religious. What bothers Morris and Newsweek magazine, by the way, is that Israel is becoming more conservative as this country also has become more conservative. And the reason is people who have a deep faith don't believe in socialism. And they don't believe that we have to give everything away. Certainly not give away parts of Israel to our mortal enemies. And certainly not the people who teach their kids to blow themselves up with me and my children and grandchildren. I don't want any part of them, even though I don't live there. I certainly don't want any part of them. And I don't want my kids being near them, or my grandkids, or any Jewish person. In fact, I don't want anybody being around those people, because those people are bound to blow themselves up with you, unless you're Muslim. And if you're Muslim and a different Muslim than them, they might also do that. Great world, Mr. Morris. Great writing and great thinking. And wonderful, responsible reporting for Newsweek magazine. This is Rabbi Chaim Moshe at your service.